Today I'll show you a mystery thriller movie from 2009 titled Exam. 8 candidates for a top occupation at a mysterious organization are accumulated in a windowless room with 2 lines of desks. They have past necessities as not referenced in the flick. They each pick a seat, and upon each desk there is a piece of paper that recognizes them as applicant 1, applicant 2, and so on. The invigilator shows up and presents the guidelines for the test. The test comprises of responding to one question, and there is just one answer inside the room. There will be no rules other than whatever the organization allows, such as the competitors can attempt to communicate with the invigilator himself, not the watchman. They can ruin the paper, and they can leave the space under any circumstance. If the candidates defy any of these guidelines, they will be disqualified. The invigilator asks them if they have any inquiries. He sets the clock at 80 minutes and departed from the room. When each of the applicants turn their paper over, they observe nothing written on the back. They check out one another in bewilderment, and one of the examinee begins writing that, "I believe I deserve." The watchman throws her out of the room since she has written on the paper, ruining it. A young white bloke begins talking and persuades everybody to cooperate until they discover what the question is. Contending that for a job this elite, the answer can be straightforward. It takes cooperation. He additionally gives offending names to the competitors according to their physical appearance, such as black, white, brown, blonde, brunette, dark, and deaf. Then at that point, White thinks what else hasn't the invigilator inhibited them to do. He stands up. The guard possibly acts when the guidelines are broken. So in this manner, they are certain now that things uninhibited by the invigilator are all permitted. At first, they attempt to peruse the hidden message in the papers by putting them in front of a light that doesn't uncover anything on the paper. At the point when they break the lights that encompasses the room, then emergency lights is activated. Afterwards, when they cautiously break the emergency tubes, they discover infrared lights, but none of this assists them with seeing anything on the paper. They further learn that neither one will be excluded if a competitor ruins neither competitor's paper. At that point, when Dark attempts to tell that they are presumably missing something evident, White dismisses her in a split second. They have a go at licking the paper. White pees on his paper, however discovers nothing. White singles out Dave, who talks as it were French. Dave shows indications of a psychological or mental disorder. He says in French that they just need to check out the papers while he attempts to reorder some little bits of glass on the top of the paper. They find that Brown is a proficient gambler, and he proposes it's a game that the governing body is concealed on the opposite side of the wall. Dark is a psychoanalyst who by all accounts is one in particular who has some data concerning the organization, the items it sells, its expansion, and so forth. Still, any of the applicants couldn't really discover any data on the organization regardless of doing some exploration. Dark lets them know that the organization they all applied to the most awful war position beats any best occupation on the planet. It's an organization that developed so quickly during a pandemic flare-up. They discover the suppressant for the contamination. The chief of the organization is viewed as one of the most influential individuals on the planet. White takes responsibility of the remaining contenders. Brunette finds they can contact the watchman as long as they don't converse with him. She tracks down a lighter in one of his pockets. She needs to light the fire alarms since it might deliver something other than water, uncovering the question. She hops onto a table, yet can reach the sprinkler. White offers her a paper, and in the wake of succeeding, she learns that White gave her own paper, so she is disqualified and accompanied out of the room. Dark strolls towards White directly, saying, "I should punch your lights out," and the room goes dull. Brown says, "Lights up," also the light goes on. They find the room voice controlled. White domineering Dave into tearing the paper and eating it. In the wake of following his words, Dave is taken out by the guard, dropping his glass inside the room. White beguiled them, saying that they could team up until they find the answer. However, subsequent to fooling Brunette into being excluded, everyone started to question the others. As the strain works to more noteworthy levels, Black punches White, knocking him out, and ends up tied to a seat by Dark and Brown. White begins reading and can discover his medication, which is required consistently. Then at that point, they comprehended that White is tainted. Dark proposes that White is likely an agent for the organization. Brown states that Dark knows a lot about the organization, and everybody begins to smell Dark as the covert agent inside the organization and is working for them, and they need to extract the question from her. Afterwards, when Brown is going to torment her by cutting her finger with a piece of paper, they find that she is a representative at this foundation, additionally that she has injured herself on one of her thighs. Brown intimidated her, saying that after cutting her finger, he'll go for her eyes. She actually hollers that she knows nothing, and Brown believed her. White is deteriorating, and while every other person is attempting to choose the most ideal way of aiding, Dark finds that Brown took White's pill and stuck it under his desk with a piece of chewing gum. Brown actually opposes about giving White the medication and slaps it out of her hand. It falls down a water channel. Dark moves in the direction of blank screen and screeched for White's life and is consequently disqualified. Blunt takes the pill out with her hairpin and shoves the medication into White's mouth, and he gets well very quickly. They free him a short time later. He calls attention to that the clock is running fast, and there are 4 remaining contenders. White realizes just one can win, and he and Dark start contending and rush to get the guard's weapon. In the act of beating White to the wall, Dark takes the weapon in his grasp, and after being incited, shoots White. However, they find the weapon didn't really fire. White penetrates Dark with a pencil and gains possession of the gun and attempts to shoot Dark, yet the firearm doesn't shoot. By and by, White figures out that the guard may just fire the weapon, so he places the firearm into the guard's hand. White threatens everyone that they should leave or be killed. Brown leaves the room without risking his life. Blunt leaves and yells lights out to allow Black to confront him. In the darkness, White slays Black. We see Blunt hasn't totally left the room. One of her feet remains somewhere in the room. White observes this and wanted to shoot her. Then out of nowhere the clock begins blaring, indicating that the time has expired. White yells to the opposite side of the wall that he has won. The guard puts his hand on White's shoulder, also shows him there is still time left. He loses on the ground that Dave has changed the clock timing by forwarding few seconds, that 80 minutes ain't expired. He attempts to commit suicide, but he comes up short, since the firearm will work in the guard's hands only. The glass wall is turned on, and White can see the silhouette of the Invigilator. He looks dejected and understands that it has all been worthless. The watchman disqualifies him by driving him out. Blunt completely comes into the room again and gets her paper. She picks up the bits of glasses and Dave's glass and reads the question number 1, composed on the paper's watermark in small print. She handed over it to Dave, who gets back to the room, and she says nothing. Later, she is offered the employment opportunity. He has clarified that Dave is the CEO of the organization. He is grieved, yet a proficient researcher who has devised a pill to mend wounds unbelievably quick. Blunt says that she might not accept the job. At that point, the Invigilator inquired why she went through all that difficulty if she didn't need the position. She focuses to Black laying on the floor and says it's unacceptable. The Invigilator asks who lets her know that he is perished. She proceeded to Black and sees that the shot injury is practically cured. The Invigilator says that they put the quick healing pill inside the bullet. They own the formula for the medication, which also alleviated Black's sickness. However, it must be produced in a trivial amount. The new director expected to have compassion alongside ambition, knowledge, and diligence. Later, Blunt accepts the job, and here the movie Exam comes to conclusion. Well, that's all for today. Thank you.